an orchid into your home is like bringing in a living piece of art. With their structural, elegant stems and vibrant, long-lasting blooms, orchids have captivated indoor gardeners for generations. Yet, behind their stunning appearance lies a reputation for being finicky and difficult to maintain. When an orchid fails to thrive, dropping its flowers prematurely or refusing to bloom again the following year, the culprit is almost always misunderstood lighting. We frequently hear that orchids require bright, indirect sunlight. But what does that phrase actually mean when you are standing in your living room holding a potted plant? How do you measure it? And how do you know if your plant is getting too much or too little? Mastering indoor lighting is the single most important skill you can develop as an orchid owner. Once you understand how to harness and translate natural light, you unlock the secret to continuous, spectacular blooms. Here is your definitive guide to giving your indoor orchids exactly the light they crave. The jungle canopy connection. To understand what an orchid needs in your living room, you must first understand where it comes from. The most common indoor orchids, such as the beloved Phalaenopsis moth orchid, are tropical epiphytes. In their natural habitat, they do not grow in the dirt on the forest floor. Instead, they cling to the rough bark of massive trees high up in the humid canopy of the rainforest. In this elevated position, they are shielded from the harsh, blazing rays of the direct sun by a thick ceiling of leaves above them. The light they receive is dappled, filtered, and scattered. It is bright enough to power photosynthesis, but soft enough to prevent their sensitive leaves from scorching. When we bring these plants indoors, our primary goal is to recreate that dappled canopy effect. Exposing an orchid to the direct, unfiltered rays of the afternoon sun is akin to leaving it in the desert. It will quickly suffer from severe sunburn. Conversely, hiding it in a dark, windowless corner starves it of the energy it needs to produce its magnificent flowers. Decoding window directions. The easiest way to control light exposure is by choosing the right window. The direction your window faces dictates the intensity and duration of the sunlight your plant will receive throughout the day. East-facing windows. The gold standard and eastern exposure is universally considered the holy grail for most indoor orchids. It provides gentle, cool morning sunlight for a few hours, followed by bright, ambient light for the rest of the day. This perfectly mimics the gentle dappled light of the canopy. You can usually place your orchid right on the windowsill of an east-facing window without any risk of burning. South and west-facing windows. The danger zones these windows receive the most intense, blazing sunlight, especially during the hottest parts of the afternoon. Placing an orchid directly in a south or west window will almost certainly result in scorched, blackened leaves. However, these windows can be beautifully utilized if you filter the light. Hanging a sheer white curtain between the glass and the plant diffuses the harsh rays, creating a bright but safe environment. Alternatively, simply pull the orchid a few feet back into the room where the direct sunbeams cannot reach its leaves. North-facing windows. The shady side north-facing windows provide very little direct light and are generally too dark to sustain an orchid's blooming cycle. While your plant may survive and grow dark green leaves here, it will rarely gather enough energy to push out a new flower spike. If a north window is your only option, you will likely need to supplement with artificial lighting. The apple green leaf test. One of the most beautiful things about orchids is that they are highly communicative. You do not need expensive light meters to determine if your placement is correct. The plant will tell you exactly how it feels through the color of its foliage. Perfect light. Apple green. When an orchid is receiving the ideal amount of indirect light, its leaves will be a medium, slightly yellowish green, very similar to the skin of a Granny Smith apple or healthy lawn grass. The leaves will feel firm to the touch and stand proudly upright. Too little light. Dark forest green. It is a common misconception that dark, rich green leaves are a sign of a healthy houseplant. For orchids, deeply dark green leaves mean the plant is overcompensating for a lack of light by producing excess chlorophyll. While the plant might look lush, it is essentially starving for energy and will stubbornly refuse to flower. Too much light. Red or yellow tints. If the leaves begin to look bleached, faded, or severely yellow, the light is too intense. Additionally, some orchids will develop a reddish-purple freckling or pigmentation along the edges of the leaves. This is the plant's version of a suntan, a natural sunscreen it produces to protect itself. While a slight red tint on the edges is acceptable, a heavy red flush means you need to move the plant further from the window immediately before the leaves burn and turn crispy. The hand shadow test. If you want a quick, practical way to gauge the light intensity in any given spot before placing your orchid there, try the simple hand shadow test. Wait for the brightest part of the day, usually around midday or early afternoon. Place a piece of white paper exactly where you want to put your orchid. Hold your hand about a foot above the paper and observe the shadow it casts. If the shadow is sharply defined with crisp, clear edges, the light is too direct and intense. If you can barely see a shadow at all, the light is too weak. You are looking for the sweet spot, a shadow with soft, fuzzy, blurred edges. This indicates that the light is bright enough to be highly usable, but diffused enough to be safe. A note on artificial lighting solutions. For those living in urban apartments with limited natural light, heavy outdoor tree cover, or mostly north-facing windows, growing orchids might seem impossible. Thankfully, modern technology has provided a brilliant and simple solution. Full-spectrum LED grow lights have revolutionized indoor gardening. These lights are specifically designed to mimic the exact wavelengths of the sun that plants use for photosynthesis, all without generating the intense heat that causes physical damage. If you are using artificial lights, position the LED panel about 10 to 12 inches above the orchid's canopy. Because artificial light is generally less intense than the actual sun, you will need to leave the lights on for about 12 to 14 hours a day to simulate a full tropical daylight cycle. Ensure you turn them off at night, as orchids absolutely require a period of darkness to rest, process the energy they have gathered, and trigger their blooming cycles.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe if you like videos like this. Thank you.